Hi everybody and welcome back to Lysha Be Creative. I'm Lysha, the owner and maker here of this channel. So I wanted to go ahead and jump right into what we are doing in today's tutorial. So today's tutorial is going to be a very simple, I would say beginner friendly tumbler tutorial. We're going to be using vinyl and glitter, of course, and I'm going to show you a fun way to do this sort of floral glitter waterfall style tumbler that is really beautiful, especially with spring coming up before we know it. So everything I use in today's tutorial will be listed and linked down in the description box down below. You'll even find discount codes for a lot of the products I use in today's video, so be sure to check that out. Before you go though, be sure to give today's video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. But let's go ahead and jump right into today's video. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I am using a 30-ounce sublimation tumbler from Hog. And so I'm going to treat this just like any other tumbler. I often do use sublimation tumblers sometimes, so I don't have to do a lot of prep work because I already have the white base. But I am still going to scuff up this surface because I am going to paint over this. So we're going to do the same prep process as we normally do. I'm going to go ahead and scuff that surface up with a sanding block and then go ahead and wipe that down with some 91% rubbing alcohol to get the surface free of any debris from our sanding. Once I'm done with that, I then am ready and prepared to get my cup spray painted. That way it is the base color that is going to match nicely with the glitter we're using. So after I've spray painted that vintage blue color from Rustoleum, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, of course, and we can go ahead and get into the glittering. So I'm going to use One Coat Wonder from Cal & Grace Designs as my glitter adhesive for today, and I'm going to put a really generous coat of glue all over the cup. That way I can make sure I have enough of a glue coverage all the way over the entire tumbler. And so just taking my brush and really thoroughly ensuring that I do get a nice coat evenly all over the cup. I want to make sure that I don't have any situation where either the glitter won't stick or the glue starts to repel from the cup, and then I'd have to go in with a second coat. You guys know that if I can get the glittering done in one coat with a glitter adhesive, I am for it. I do like this One Coat Wonder because it does seem to be a little bit thicker than Mod Podge, and I think that allows it to get a little bit better coverage, I guess you can say, and I have less issues with a repelling situation, which sometimes can happen with Mod Podge. So I really do love that this is thicker, a little bit easier to work with, and kind of a little bit goes a long way. So I'm going to cover this entire cup in Shadow Blue. This is like a silvery but also vintage blue glitter color. It is a really beautiful color on its own, and depending on what base you're putting it on, it definitely can mimic silver, but on a blue base, it does give a little bit more blue than it does silver. Of course, once I'm done glittering that, the next thing I did was allow the glue to dry. I waited about probably a couple hours before I put that on the turner and did enough coats of epoxy to make my tumbler smooth. So for this cup, it took about 2 coats of epoxy, Flint Sisters Artist Cure, in order to ensure that my cup was nice and smooth and I wouldn't have to do a whole lot of sanding. And after that is cured, I'm going to take that off the tumbler, and of course we're going to do any sanding that we need to do right now. So typically the top and bottom rim, the majority of your cup though should be completely smooth at this point. So once I'm satisfied with the sanding, we're going to go ahead and add our vinyl. So this is a beautiful floral print that I got from 311 Co. It was in my package of goodies that was sent to me by Wendy. So I'm going to use this semi-transparent vinyl sheet, and we're going to cut this floral section off, and we're going to use this as sort of like a full wrap, but we're not going to use the entire piece, if that makes sense. So if you wanted to, you of course could just wrap the entire cup on this, but I wanted to just have the floral at the top portion of the cup. So I'm going to take half of this print and I'm going to cut pretty closely to the floral image there and use it to wrap the top portion of my cup only. So once I have cut out sort of the excess on the bottom there, I'm going to go ahead and get this applied to wrap this around just like I would a vinyl wrap. So the reason why I did cut off sort of all of the edging of that vinyl print was because sometimes even with your semi-transparent prints, sometimes you can see the edges of your vinyl when you apply it, especially if you're not going to apply it entirely to wrap the entire cup. And so I wanted to avoid that. And so cutting closer to the print really did allow me to ensure that I wouldn't be able to really see where the edges of the vinyl were after this is epoxied. So we're going to wrap this section of vinyl on the cup just like I would any vinyl wrap. I am going to spend a lot more time than I would for a typical vinyl wrap because this is a semi-transparent vinyl, and so typically with these that have a lot of clear edges, sometimes you can see a lot of the creases and wrinkles and bubbles. So I really am going to spend a lot of time to make sure that I don't have any bubbles or any wrinkles that really can be seen, sort of looking directly at the cup. So I'm going to take a lot more time to wrap this around the cup than I would a typical opaque vinyl that I might use to wrap a vinyl in. So really taking sort of the felt edge of my vinyl squeegee tool and really using that to push out any air pockets under the florals that are showing as like white dots under there, because that's that trapped air. And I don't want to have to spend like, a whole hour trying to cut these all out. So I wanted to make sure that I was spending the time as I'm wrapping it to push out any of that air so I don't have to do as much legwork afterward to remove any of those air pockets and bubbles. Once it's applied and I'm pretty satisfied with how this is on the cup, I'm now going to take a little bit more time here and really ensure that this vinyl is nicely adhered to the cup. And then of course also go around with my craft knife and just any sections of air pockets that may have gotten trapped that I wasn't able to push out with my squeegee. I'm going to go ahead and take that opportunity now to kind of slice through those bubbles and release that air. That way we can't see those air pockets after we've epoxied the cup, okay? So taking my time and really just making sure that this is adhered nicely. I am then going to go ahead and take my cup edging tool and I'm going to trim the top rim. So what I have found is that sometimes when you apply a vinyl print over a glittered cup, you'll get sort of puckering towards the top edge or bottom edge of your cup. And so to avoid that, I just use my cup edging tool to trim the top and bottom edge. That way the vinyl stays flush against the cup, and that way I won't have to run into an issue of needing to do a lot of sanding and potentially even sort of sanding out some of those pieces of vinyl when I go to epoxy this till smooth. So just trimming that top edge there, leaving a little bit of a gap there, but that's not going to matter in this case because we are going to add another like waterfall glitter look over top of this. So I'm satisfied with how this looks, and so I didn't put this on the turner yet. We're gonna go right over top of this with a little bit of epoxy to do an additional layer of glitter. So we're creating like this glitter waterfall look over this floral print to sort of add a little bit more of depth and more dimension to the cup and give it, a cuter look than just putting vinyl over top of glitter, which of course you guys have seen me do plenty of times, right? So I'm gonna use two glitters here. I'm first starting with Olea, which is like a very soft, natural green color, very light, very delicate, I would say, of a green color. It really gives me like boho sort of vibes, like that kind of color palette style. But I thought that would match really nice because it really did match really closely to the greenery that's in the floor of the vinyl. So I'm starting with that color and just doing a bit of a sprinkling over the top edge and sort of tilting my cup downward to sprinkle down that glitter. Now going back in with a finer cut that's closer to Olea. This is Poison Apple and this is from Lysha Creations. I'm going to go ahead and continue to layer on top of Olea and downward into the florals and to where that epoxy is. So I made sure when I was applying my epoxy that I only applied enough epoxy to no farther than halfway down the cup because I wanted there to be some sprinkling of that glitter down that far, but I didn't want it to go too far down the cup. So I really was sort of thoughtful in how I applied my epoxy to make sure that I didn't let the glitter go too far down the length of my cup. Once I was done with the glittering, The second glitter, I let that dry for a couple hours, cure for a couple hours, and put that on the turner and epoxied again until smooth. That took another coat of epoxy, and then we're back to sand, of course, the top rim again. Since we did cover that with glitter again, we want to make sure we have that fine line of stainless steel up top so that we have a nice smooth finish in our final coats. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to add this cute decal. I found this from Creative Fabrica, this Stronger Than the Storm decal, and I feel like this just goes so nicely with just the aesthetic of the overall cup here. And I really have just been looking for quotes that are just empowering and motivating, and I really just stuck with this quote here, and I thought it was perfect for this cup. So after this, of course, this cup goes on the turner for its 2 final coats of epoxy, and then this was finished. So this is a really simple and easy style tumbler, especially if you're just getting into tumbler making and maybe you want to try something that's a little bit more than just, you know, a single coat of glitter, adding some vinyl, but adding that second layer of glitter to give that, you know, that cup an extra pop. So I was really satisfied with how this one came out. I hope that you guys did enjoy this tutorial. As always, if you loved my video today, be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. I do upload videos every Saturday, and I will go ahead and see you guys in the next one. Bye!